Oh, yeah, we hear the dog barking. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of The Real Deals, as it is. Tonight, we're going to be doing a fabulous movie review. Actually, it's a documentary by a filmmaker, Ryan Cavalline, and this is going to be interesting because in this documentary, he covers the aspects of the Exorcism Prayer. So I want to welcome everybody to the show. Athena, Santo, Rosalie, Leslie's here. Haven't seen her in forever. So good to see you. Melissa, Doris, Santo. And if I've missed you, yeah, Rachel, so good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we've got Deb tonight. Deb, I heard Una. Deb?
Yes, you did. I forgot to hit the mute button. Oh, geez.
Una's at it again. Well, listen, you guys, don't go away because you know what? We got a packed amount to share tonight.
The Real Deals are on the air now. And now, live from the Swords of St. Michael Studios, it's The Real Deal. Farrah Rose.
You there? Hello?
Yes, I'm here, sweetie. I just started the intro.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Just like old times, Deb. Just like old times.
That's why I'm laughing.
Well, in case you're new, we bring you all sorts of topics related to demonology, ghostology, exorcism, deliverance, and I'm a demonologist, so give us a like, thumbs up, subscribe by clicking on the bell so you can get notifications on when we do other crazy programs. Deb Johnson is in the house tonight, and we are covering the topic of the Exorcism Prayer and the movie, The Exorcism Prayer by Ryan Cavalline. So, before we start anything, we must start with our St. Michael prayer. In nomine Dei Patri et Filio et Spiritus Sanctus, sic erere principio et nunc et semper et saecula saeculorum. Amen. Sanctum Michael Arcangele, defende nos in prelio, contra nequitiam et insidious diaboli esto presidium. Imperere Deus supplicis te pecamur tuque, Princeps maletia celestis satana maliosque, spiritus malignos, qui ad perditionem animarum pervergantur in mundo divina virtute in infernum detrude. Amen.
Amen.
Oh my goodness, Deb, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You got Deb Johnson here in the house, and you have Una Johnson in the house.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to change the show name to the Real Deal Johnsons, or the Johnsons and the Deals. Oh goodness gracious. So this is a subject I know that is just so close and personal to your heart. If you are new to this channel and are not familiar with Deb Johnson's story, she is part of basically a family that was afflicted with many demons, exorcisms, Devil in Connecticut, the Devil Made Me Do It case story, and Deb stays involved basically to help other people and remind people that this is a very real thing. It is not to be joked about, messed with. It's something very dear to her heart because she's still seeing many people suffer from the problems that she's had. Now, Deb, before I get into, talking about what the film covered, I wanted to just say that when I look to review a movie or I look at a movie, I don't just look at the content and what the content is aimed at and what the content hopes to, what the storyline is. I look at the broader aspects in terms of, the movie was about the exorcism prayer, okay, Deb? We get that. We know what the exorcism prayer is. And a lot of people that may be listening tonight, hello, Gracie Marie, glad you could join us. Hi, Lori. They don't really know what we're talking about when we're talking about the exorcism prayer. So we're going to get into that. The movie review, as a former journalist, this movie was done from a journalism perspective. And I would like to tell everyone that if you have nightmares, if you are sensitive at all to disturbing images, this is not a movie that I would recommend you to watch. It is not a movie I would recommend anyone under 18 to watch. Because, Deb, as you and I both know, anything that we put in our minds, the devil can use it times 1,000 to disturb you, to lie to you. To hurt you.
That's so fascinating that you mentioned that you're a former journalist, because in high school I took journalism.
You did?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I know. We are so much alike. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I know, right? Isn't that just too funny?
Yep, it is. It's ironic.
Very, very ironic. So you see what I'm saying? Coming from a journalism perspective, journalism, the aim of journalism, in case if people are not familiar with the aim of journalism, journalism is not to skew someone's opinion or skew reality. When I got into journalism years ago, it was to report the findings and facts as you saw them.
Exactly. And nothing else.
And nothing else. I was not supposed to put my
opinion.
opinion.
We're allowed to have an opinion.
No. Far from it. We weren't supposed to have opinions. We were supposed to just be observers, neutral observers. And for humans, that is so difficult, so very difficult. It's very difficult for us to just sit back and think, oh, yeah, well, I can check that out. This film, while based on the Roman ritual, this is what I liked about it. The number one thing I liked, that in the entire film, in the entire settings that he placed the people that were interviewed, the images that were presented, the history, the some of the beliefs and conceptions of the people being interviewed, he came from the perspective of, when you need an exorcism, where do you go to? You go to the church. You go to people of faith. You go to Christ, who instituted exorcism in the office in 1646. So that's what I really liked about it. I thought that when you look at movies like this, a lot of people watch them out of curiosity. Like I said, I wouldn't watch this movie out of curiosity. It does present very disturbing cases. It does interview many Roman Catholic priests, as well as non-Catholic, as well as Protestant pastors. There were some very, very, very knowledgeable people interviewed. And he started with this psalm. And I love the way he started, because the imagery flowed you into the story of the Exorcism Prayer. And Deb, this is really, really beautiful. I got to read this. It was Psalm 67, 2-3. And the psalm reads, "As smoke vanishes, so let them vanish away. As wax melts before the fire, so let the wicked perish at the presence of God." Hello. That's how the movie starts, with this beautiful imagery, and you're like, okay, who's melting? Who's got the fire?
That sums it up right there.
Isn't that beautiful?
Right at the beginning.
Isn't that beautiful? I know. And it's like, I'm expecting all these bells and whistles. I'm expecting Ryan to pull out, all these supernatural ghost hunter shows where they have, the $10 pastors throwing the holy water and going, "Get out," or shouting the F word, and he's got to bleep every other word out. He didn't come from that angle. He didn't come from that angle at all. And this was what is so, it was so impressive. Like I said, the imagery at the beginning is so beautiful. It draws you right into the story. And as the story as it opens up with an exorcist that is telling you about a very, very, very difficult case, very similar to your case. As I was saying, people, if you're not familiar with Deb's case was very horrific. It is one of the worst cases I've ever heard. It did
worldwide, actually.
Yeah, Father Thomas was actually talking about levitation. He was talking about, the guttural language and the speaking in tongues right off the bat. It was like, boom. He just, Ryan just jumped right.
Our case.
I know. Right into the meat of the story.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing that I found was that he did not just focus from a place of authority from the Catholic Church or other deliverance ministers. He chose other people to interview too. And when you look at the deliverance ministry, he had, oh goodness gracious, he had investigators, all right, people that were actually, some of them admitted that they actually investigate just to get exorcists on board. He interviewed people that actually would go in and do quote-unquote house cleansings and that sort of thing. So we're looking...
People were just there basically to document everything they heard, saw, or witnessed.
Precisely, Deb. Precisely. Mm-hmm.
So that they have something to present to the priest and even to the Vatican if they had to.
Well, and that's so important because everything must be recorded. Everything must be written down. Everything has to have, there has to be a process.
When, where, and when. And
exactly.
Who was present, what time it was, what day it was.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, honey. And that's what people don't
understand.
understand.
A lot of work.
Oh, gosh, yes. A lot of work is right. So as I said, the beginning was beautiful. It draws you in. And then Ryan shows you some of the darker aspects of what people actually believe and what people think and how they perceive that maybe demons don't really exist. He looks at this concept from a variety of different ways. So that
I hear this all the time, Sarah.
Really?
I really do. How people will go and pray to God,
Yes.
They love their Heavenly Father. They don't see Him, but they pray to Him.
Exactly.
And, do you believe in the devil? Oh, no. I've heard that so many times. How could you believe in good and not evil?
That I don't know. I really don't know, honey. That doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense to me either. It's like, you say you believe in one thing and not the other. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. If there is something so beautiful and so wonderful that created everything, and this was some of the scripture passages.
All this mayhem that's going on now, and people don't understand or realize, well, if God was real, we wouldn't have all this. No, He allows it. He allows what we choose in our life. He allows everybody to make their own preference.
And this is the truism that the people interviewed, it was a common denominator in everyone that was interviewed. The majority of people were saying that this was a choice. And there was an interesting interview in there. One of the priests was speaking on, the openings of the occult and Ouija boards, seances, horoscopes, that sort of thing. He was talking about all the invitations.
Yeah, tarot cards, divining rods, anything to do with the supernatural.
Exactly. And then there was this one interview in there that was really, I don't want to say bothersome to me, but it seemed borderline invitational, and this is why. Now, what do I mean by invitational? The interview in the movie, in this documentary, The Exorcism Prayer, the gentleman basically that was being interviewed had a lot of trouble in his marriage. Like I said, there's going to be no spoilers. I'm not telling you the end, and I'm only just giving you bits and pieces because I think it's a good idea. If you're serious about demonology or studying spiritual warfare, watch this. If not, just enjoy the show, folks, and let's move on. Got it? And hit the like button if you guys can, please. It boosts my video up. The interview, Deb, was really interesting because, on a curious note, the gentleman involved had a wife that had a lot of problems, and he was so upset and so mad about it. This is what got him into demonology. The movie is available if you do not have Facebook, I will put the link up at the end. It's Legend Hunter Films, and I will link it right in the description after the live broadcast, and it's called The Exorcism Prayer. It's a, what do they call it, indie movie? And so anyway, this gentleman being interviewed, kids, was telling everybody about all this, the horror that had gone on in his life for 20 years. This is what got him interested. Deb, get this. He basically decided that he was going to get involved in deliverance and investigations and everything else. And this is the reason why, Deb. And you tell me what you think, because I know this just hit me right in the gut when I heard it. The interviewee was saying, every case I get involved in, I'm looking for this demon that did this to my family. And every time I try to help someone, I want to know, is this the demon? I'm looking for that demon in every case I get.
He has to look where the portal was open. It had to be welcomed in. It just doesn't happen. Somebody had to open the door to let this demon in.
Yes.
And the demon is not going to expel himself only during an exorcism.
Well, exactly. I have to say hello to a Franciscan sister in chat, Gabriela. Welcome. She's third order regular. I'm just third order secular, professed religious. So welcome. The point I was trying to make, Deb, is when you have someone that says, okay, I got into demonology and I got into deliverance and I'm going to find that demon that did this to my family.
I see. You know what?
Generational curse.
Yes, you bring back other things. Besides generational curse, when Arnie came home,
yes,
it's like Ed Warren had his school starting, his school was going on where he was teaching and, everybody can get their, their wings more or less of being a demonologist type of thing.
Yes.
He goes, I want to follow the footsteps of Ed Warren. And I said, no, you're not.
Not a good idea.
No, I said, after what we've been through all these years,
yep.
No, he wanted to follow Ed's footsteps. And I said, no, because Arnie is a very strong person.
Oh, yes, he is.
Physically,
Mm-hmm.
And I said, no, we don't need to be a part of this.
Exactly.
Let's put this behind us.
Well,
because he thought he could help other people. I said, no. I said, it's done and it's over with.
That was the biggest caveat I want to give people that are listening. Demonology, deliverance, and exorcism, this is not something that you're like, hey,
no.
I think I want to jump out of an airplane. Well, let's try demonology. No, please don't.
And because calling to be a demonologist, it has to be a special calling.
God has to call you. God has to prepare you in so many ways. Unless, excuse me, there's so many priests that all of a sudden God changes on a dime and calls them to the ministry, and they have to really prepare themselves very quickly. So, in this instance, I just want to say this is not a criticism of the gentleman and his desire to help these people. This is an indicator that there is something going on below the surface that is not going to get exposed until breaking curses prayers have been said for his wife.
Exactly.
And
he might want to help his family,
yes,
but the only thing he's going to end up doing is offering himself.
Well, and that's kind of hard when you are either non-religious or you are, you're basically coming from maybe a Christian standpoint, but not the sacraments. That's right. The hard thing.
They're trying to get at the root of it, and it's not going to happen the way they want it to.
Exactly. So that was just that was one of those things, Deb, I had to bring up because I really don't want people thinking that this is something that you can just jump into and enjoy doing and think that, well, because my family's been afflicted for 15, 20 years, that means that I'm called. No, that does not necessarily mean that you're called to help. Promise.
I agree with you. Farrah. Nope.
Well,
but what you can do is, keep your armor and say your prayer.
Exactly.
And stay far away from it as you can. And never let that door open.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that there were many priests and there were many people talking about doorways, and that's what we're talking about right now. Because as I was taking notes and watching the movie, the best description, okay, Deb, especially for people that are lay people or people that are on deliverance teams or people that are in investigations. You know how, Deb, we a lot of times might use word like faculties, or we might use, terms as, doorways from abuse, like somebody was talking in chat that, somebody's healing and they're still trying to heal from some of this abuse. Father Thomas in this movie gave a great description, and this is one of the few spoilers I'm going to give you because I just loved how he described it. He basically to quote him, he said, if any part, the mind, the body, the mind, the body, the psyche, if our mind isn't rooted in our faith, and religion just means to mind, kids, okay? It does not mean that you're brainwashed, okay? So if my mind is weak or my body is unhealthy or weak, any part is weak, the devil can gain entry. The devil's minions can start lying to you. You have opened a doorway
to the father of lies.
Exactly. Unknowingly. So, does this mean that everybody's up for possession or oppression? No. But is everybody up for regular temptation, which is the lowest level of oppression? Yes. That's the problem.
Everyone that walks the face of this earth
exactly.
is open to oppression.
So, and that's what he was saying. He just is saying is basically, if anything is weak or broken, then the demonic can take advantage.
Sure, I just want to address this here.
Yes.
And it's actually a very good question.
Yes.
From Jason. How do you know if you're called to be a demonologist? How do you know?
Well, I'll tell you what. The only way that you can know for sure if you're called to be a demonologist is the sum of your experiences. And I'm going to get to something really powerful at the end. I'm glad you brought that up. The sum total of your experiences leads you to a deeper desire to get close to your Creator, to Christ. Do you know why? Because your suffering is so powerful that there's no way out of it. There's no way out of it. You can't conceive of ending it all. So what do? You plod toward the only hope that you have. You find mentors in a spiritual life that leads you to the foot of the cross. You find within yourself other people around you that you see the pain in their eyes, you see the desperation, and you naturally reach out with your own experiences, because this is how we heal people. It doesn't matter if you've been in an accident, if you've been demonically attacked. God gives us this to be someone else's balm for their wounds.
And also, Farrah, I find it to be prayers of discernment.
Oh, gosh, yes. Well, that has to come with a spiritual director, because you can't just all of a sudden go, well, I went to church and I was given a word and I was given 3 words and everybody laid their hands on me and, I'm doing this.
It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. It does not work that way. You must spend quiet time in discernment. You must get yourself a spiritual director or a spiritual mentor, someone that understands where you've been, where you are, and where you are aiming to go. Or even if you're not aiming to go anywhere, they're going to help you ask the right questions so that you can figure out where God is calling you to use what he's placed on your table. Because there's no way, I had no clue I was who I was until about 10 years ago. No clue. I just was doing what I did. Automatically, didn't have any idea.
I slapped upside the head.
I know, it's like, oh, okay, that's what I'm doing. Okay, all right, great. Yes, it is. It's definitely a calling. Good question. Good question. I'm glad they asked it. Okay, so to get on with our little story here. Okay, the documentary asked a number of people, is possession real? Is it even real? So if we don't believe in the devil, can we get possessed? The documentary did highlight specific cases where people did not think it was possible, and it actually called an exorcist because they had actually seen something. And if you go to www.legendhunterfilms.com, the film is available. The film is also available. If you go to the website, I think it's available on Vimeo, on one of those streaming channels. And I think you can actually watch it for free. But do go to www.legendhunterfilms. Ryan Cavalline, he's available on Facebook and Legend Hunter Films. You can follow the links there to watch this movie. Like I said, it's not for sensitive people. It has some very disturbing themes, very disturbing elements in it. And I would not watch it out of curiosity because of the content.
And watch during the daylight, not the night.
No, please don't watch this at night. Please, not at night. We can't have you having nightmares. Okay, so, and looking at, is possession real and scary? They did cover the Emily Rose case. They did cover a couple of the really popular cases.
When I went through all this during our case,
yes,
I was the biggest skeptic.
Oh yeah.
Everything had to be proven to me. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't believe this. I don't believe in that. And it's like, my husband did the full-blown challenge, but I was the instigator. Well, I need to see this. I need to see that because I didn't believe. But once I saw, I believed.
Yes.
Because there was no magicians in the house.
No, there was nobody pulling those strings, was there, Deb?
Exactly.
So on to the rest of the people that were interviewed, and I know, Deb, you and I have some very strong opinions about this, and this is not a judgment on the film or the people being interviewed. I'm just giving you that caveat before I start, talking about the person being interviewed, because I'm not going to name names. They did interview someone, and they did speak of somebody that talks to the dead, and somebody that, says that they are a clairvoyant, and they are involved in deliverance. Now, I do not recommend or do not commend anybody that talks to the dead or does deliverance and talks to the dead. This is a very, very dangerous thing.
I totally agree with you on that one.
And
when it comes to stuff like that, the Lord has given certain people this. It's called a gift, and if it's given as a gift, there is never, ever to be exchanged of no money.
No. Well, not even money, but you don't speak of it out loud. You don't, because
you don't talk about it.
It's like you're putting a big red target saying, oh, yeah, I speak to the dead. Boom. No.
You
this
don't
is
tell
very,
anybody.
very dangerous. Very dangerous. Most of the mystics and saints.
From God, and you don't talk about it publicly.
Exactly. So, and the reason, and it's not, like I said, it's not a judgment, it's very dangerous. Now, I have no idea if these people have close relationships with God or not that were involved. One of them was from, I think it was one of the really popular ghost hunting shows or something like that. And when we look at people that call themselves clairvoyants, clairsentients, clairaudience, like I said, there is no judgment. There is only a caution that demons are liars. They're going to pretend to be angels of light.
Exactly.
And when you think that you're getting all this information, you think you're getting this wonderful warning, who does it make look good? Does it make you look good, or does it make God look good? And any time you think about people that talk to the dead, you have to ask yourself, what does it glorify? Just be very, 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 very cautious. And if you're a practicing clairvoyant, say lots of prayers. Lots of prayers.
Oh, Sarah, there's people that actually do really have the gift.
I know they do.
Yeah,
but they don't go around bragging about it wherever they go and talking about it.
But some that actually do, you don't know who they are. They actually work for a police department.
Well, exactly. I've known a few of them that do work for police departments, but they don't.
They do. And they find dead bodies for the police department. It's all for missing children. But you don't hear about it because they can't disclose it.
Exactly.
And that's the way it should be.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's just it. This is not something that anybody ought to mess with or practice with or anything else. It was just a caveat to be very, very careful. Talking to the dead. The dead are liars too, kids. So, they talked about, there was one case in this video that was rather interesting, and Deb, we've all heard of them. I mean, I'm not laughing at the case, okay? So people, please don't jump me because I actually smiled here. When you have young people, college age, or even kids our age, I mean, not kids our age, but people that, you know, do stupid stuff as kids and they get to be our age, and you play with things that are intentionally oriented to call up a supernatural being or to have the experience of calling up a supernatural being, you shouldn't freak out when you see a supernatural being. One of the cases involved a conjuring, Deb, that there were a group of kids that actually saw a black figure moving toward them, and the pentagram that they had drawn in the floor actually light up with flames, and they had called, freaked out, crying in tears. Of the group, everybody agreed to turn over everything that they had used. They were involved in Satanism on a college campus.
Of course, college kids. You know, college kids, you spend all that good money to go to college.
I know. It's like, I sent my kid to go do what? I know, right? So, anyway, he did everything that he could to basically bless, bind, and cover everything. There was only one kid in the group that said, no, I want to hold on to my stuff. I don't think that was the devil. I think, you know, we're just some kind of mass hypnotism or something. It wasn't real. He didn't want to believe it, Deb. So a few days later, you know, the kids, you know, had settled down. Everything had settled down. And the original young man that had called this priest called him to let him know they had come home to the rooms, and their friend that didn't want to give up his stuff was dead. That's the only spoiler I'm going to give you from the movie. This is you don't mess with Satanism. You don't mess with conjuring spirits. You don't understand. I don't care how strong you think you are. Or even a joke is so dangerous to your immortal soul, to your family. You open up your family to potential temptations for just no reason because you were curious. So that was a really interesting story, Deb. And then as he wove through the interviews, you know, talking to the priest, etc., there was an investigator that basically, I have to address this, Deb, because you and I have talked about this numerous times with Ken in the past. The Nephilim, the Book of Enoch. It's so fascinating that these books aren't involved in the Bible. And that's why I titled this, fun, facts, fiction, etc. This is the fiction part. Why do I call it the fiction part? I'm going to explain it to you in very easy terms. There is God the Creator. There are supernatural beings that have supernatural abilities. They do not possess the ability to create human form, human sperm, human flesh, human ovaries. If they did, we'd be overrun with them now. They don't exist. A lot of people believe that the giants were the Nephilim that were talked about in these hidden books, the Apocrypha, in the Book of Solomon. And it's very easy to see why people do get confused, and people think that, well, yes, at the time, there is nothing. There is nothing in history. There is nothing in there were giants. Yes, there were giants that were anomalies. There is no doubt about that. Were they part supernatural beings? I'm going to tell you something from my research, from Aquinas, from the saints. There are many books that describe how preternatural beings taught humans magic, spells. Wouldn't that equate them to possibly be, they must be part angel, part demon, part human? Well, they're not part angel and they're not part demon. So in this sense that where they're talking about the story where they believed that they were dealing with a demon that was part angel, that really is not, it's a misconception. It's a big misconception. And it's easy to assume that because you've read all this information, there must be some truth to it. When we look for truth, truth not only has to stand up to the test of time, truth has to stand up to a number of reliable sources. Some of them, hopefully, eyewitness sources. And this thing about the whole Nephilim being half angel, no.
No way.
No. People want to believe. They want to believe that an angel can make a baby with a human. No. What has to happen? So read.
They can't make a baby with a human.
Read.
Because angels have no genitalia.
Thank you. But read my lips, people. A demon can enter an evil human and make a baby with that human and that other human. But that doesn't mean the angel made the baby or the demon made the baby. That just means the person that was possessed and had the sexual intercourse and made the child may have dedicated that little baby to Satan. Do you see what I'm saying? There's a big difference. Angels cannot create human flesh.
No.
If they could, boy, we'd all be in trouble. So I wanted to clear that up. That was one of those things that, a lot of people think that this is real, and a lot of people operate under the understanding that that's real. And, I can't.
People don't realize that angels are pure. Mm-hmm. They're untouched.
Well, exactly. And demons are just, they're still preternatural beings, but they're filth. And they're not going to be able to make humans, you guys. Come on. Oh, yes, I agree. Okay, so that was really interesting. I had to address that whole thing with the Nephilim because I know it's kind of like the sparkly vampires, Deb. We all want to believe that, these demons were just, no, let's not even go there. Okay, so they also, this is really, really interesting because throughout the entire interviews with everybody agreed on some of the common core issues with people that are oppressed and possessed, and having to use the exorcism prayers and the different types, the deprecative and the adjuration, one asks,
right.
one commands. So
That's the Romanum.
Yeah. So, the common denominators were basically that every person that is cleared for exorcism and the exorcism prayer does have major mental, emotional. They have major problems because they have been oppressed for so long, or even if they were just discovered to have been possessed, they've lost periods of time. They can't think logically. They don't have a grasp on what's going on. So this was a lot of reasons why many people agreed there has to be counselors involved. There has to be psychiatrists, psychologists, somebody to help them, ground, get back to.
After these priests, after they go through this, if they actually physically go through this, they have to go on sabbatical.
Oh yes.
And then they have to go see a psychiatrist.
Well, they go through so much, and their feelings, their emotions, everything, even afterwards, besides the little crazy visits with electronics and phones and stuff like that, there's all
these
kinds
priests are physically attacked.
Oh, yes.
They take on everything that the person who is possessed is. They take it all on themselves.
Well,
and they're physically attacked.
Exactly. And actually, Pastor Robin Swope, I think you might be friends with him on Facebook, he actually admitted that he had gone through some pretty vicious physical attacks, in the past few years. So, that's another reason you don't want to stick your nose in to become a demonologist or a deliverance minister like me, unless you're willing to suffer and suffer well. Because suffering bad doesn't cut it. You can't suffer bad. It invites more demonics.
Oh, absolutely. And anybody who's a demonologist goes through physical, emotional.
Oh, yes.
And eventually it takes your life.
Basically, because it just...
Yes, it does.
It just... Well, it's like we were talking a long time ago. The interesting thing about... people that we know that have been involved with possession, oppression, demons, they develop heart problems.
Yes.
I had I told you about my major heart problem that happened when I was in high school.
Yeah.
But that's what ends up happening is they have some kind of severe heart problem, and I found it in just about everybody. The numbers are just insane. Just absolutely insane. Thank you, Lori, for your prayers. God bless you. Everybody, we need prayers and in all that we do. All right, so let's get on. What else, Deb? Okay, so we talked about that. There was a interesting Father Mark Solomon, TOR, the Third Order Regular Franciscan, was talking about how today's exorcist, the prayers of exorcism have evolved. And each priest, every priest that I worked with, they have either adapted or relied on the oldest prayers from 1646. What prayers were used again in the ones that you did? Did you guys have the old rite from the 1600s, or did you have the new rite?
We had the old rites.
And that one, just, from what I've seen.
The old ones, I believe, were when we went out of the country.
Yes.
It wasn't done in the States here.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, the old rite is longer. It's done in Latin. Yep. And it is it's usually a lot harder hitting, and will usually hurt the demons so bad that they'll usually give up their names easily. The problem is there's never just one demon. And I see a lot of people saying, well, everything was fine and everything was, everything turned out fabulous after one deliverance. And that kind of, I hope it is. Most people need a lot of prayer afterwards.
Yeah, it doesn't happen first time. No way.
No.
No way.
Tony Capianco has a question I got to answer. Thank you for coming, Tony. Okay, the question was, is a movie done by a skeptic, a Protestant, or a Catholic, kids?
Good question.
Pardon me?
Good question.
I know, it is a really good question. The movie was done. Now, I am not sure. I have to tell you this because I remained ignorant. I don't think that the movie was done by a Catholic. I do not know if the person was a Protestant. I do know the person had a strong belief in God and had a strong belief in Jesus. I will tell you for a fact that because of the recordings that I did for the video, the quality was so bad and was interrupted so bad, we had a difficult time connecting. Now, that was not the only problem. There was a lot of problems with the filming.
That could have been the demonic interfering.
And that's what they brought up at the end. It was like, am I doing something here? That it was so bad. It was so bad. Batteries would just die. We'd be talking and the battery would be dead. And he's like, hold on. I'm like, okay. So let me tell you this much. He may not be Catholic. I don't know if he's Protestant. But I did send him medals, St. Benedict medals, and he took them and he put them up. So I pray, woohoo! Legend Hunters Films, Catholic. Woohoo! Legend Hunters Films in the house, kids. You got questions? Pop them in. He's there. I didn't know they were Catholic. Surprise, surprise. That's so cool.
Good for you guys.
I know. Thanks for coming, you guys. I'm lauding your film because it was so cool. So now we know, kids, Tony Capianco, Catholic all the way. So we were talking about, let's see. Oh, yeah. Father Mark Solomon. He was talking about the best and most efficacious exorcism is the sacrament of penance. And that's what I loved, is that in this film, the documentary will take you into various forms of deliverance and exorcism from a variety of views, from the priests, from deliverance ministers, from demonologists, from investigators, from psychics. And then all of a sudden, it brings you full house and right to the feet of the exorcists that are really in the trenches, Deb. They're
Right.
witnessing all forms of the demonic. And they're witnessing
Nice, because that's a good thing.
Yes, in a way it is. And, that's why I warn you, please, this is not a film that you want to watch because you're curious. This
And
is a
don't
film
watch
that,
it during the day.
if you need to learn about exorcism, if you'd like to learn about exorcism, only watch us during the day. Like Deb says, no night viewing, please. No night viewing. But the father at the end was saying, and reiterating to everyone, that if you confess your sins with a repentant heart, you're confessing to Jesus Christ, who is standing in with that cleric, that priest, in that private moment, say, I forgive you. Sins are gone. Now, can you do this without a priest? That's like the biggest question people are always asking me, Deb. Well, I want to confess my sins. I want to talk to God, and I've confessed my sins. I don't see why you can't. I don't see why you cannot do it. It is not the same. It is not considered the same as the sacrament of penance and confession in the Catholic Church. And why a priest would say that this is so much more efficacious and cuts the tie right away is because once a sin is confessed and erased off a soul, Satan can no longer use it against you.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
And
There it is, baby.
I think that's the biggest thing that people don't understand.
Yep.
That we have that ability.
Exactly. And for people who don't realize what priests actually go through during this, it's not only they have to fast.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly.
They get physically abused.
Precisely. And that's what those priests said in there. They actually admitted how difficult this was on them. The deliverance ministers said, I'm getting attacked. I'm getting abused. I'm getting beat up. And that was, that's not easy for people to say, well, I'm not perfect and I got feet of clay and, I pray and pray and pray as hard as I can. But still, this stuff comes at you. So we are at the top of the hour, everyone, and I want to thank Legend Hunter Films for coming in and letting me review the movie because I really enjoyed it. I was really impressed. Like I said, the visuals are beautiful and they're strong and they're moving, and then it goes into the dark reality of exorcism. Watch us during the day. Say your prayers before and afterwards. This is a dangerous film to be filmed. I want to end our show, Deb, with something. I was in adoration today, you guys, and thinking about doing this because this is a powerful film because it gets the truth out. It gets the reality out of what people face. And you don't have to be a Christian or you don't have to just be a Catholic. Everybody gets affected. And this is the scary part. So today when I'm in adoration, Deb, I'm going through my favorite spiritual combat book, Dom Lorenzo Scapoli.
Right.
Okay? And I'm like, okay, what's going on, God? What kind of issues have I got today? You know I got issues, girl. The most powerful thing, all right, kids? The battle's been won. All right? It's been won already, okay? Nobody has to worry about possession or anything like that. Keep fighting that temptation. So in chapter 6, okay, from Dom Scapoli, this is the book I'm reading from right here, Spiritual Combat, all right? If you're looking for a spiritual director, hey, right here, Spiritual Combat, Dom Scapoli. So chapter 6, I want to end it right here with this, with you guys. Advice to oneself how to have confidence in God at all times.
Absolutely.
Okay? Seriously, everyone, we must be convinced that neither all of our natural or our acquired abilities, our knowledge, our supernatural gifts, what if I have discernment of spirits? What if I have this? Or perfect knowledge, even if I know the scriptures back to back, you guys, or if I spent decades, okay, in the service of God, none of that is going to enable me to do God's will. Only my confidence in God. That's it. Okay? That's it. Now, another thing, too, it's like we're always beating ourselves up. Oh, I'm such a sinner. I ate too much here. I did too much that. Blah. We're always ripping ourselves up. Okay, but guess what this says? Even though any of us, any one of us, a soul may be overwhelmed, okay, by our sins. What's a sin? The thing that we do that like takes us away from God, like maybe drink too much, stay out too late, argue, and everything that we do that basically denies another justice, that is horrible. So okay, so we're souls, okay? We're beleaguered by this sin. So even though Dom Scapoli says here, follow virtue.
Absolutely.
You must find a way to follow virtue in denying your evil inclination because you're diminishing any invitation by the devil to come after you for your sins by saying, you know what? God knows I'm a sinner. He loves me. That confidence in God is going to be your best shield of protection.
That's the same thing as saying, are you righteous?
Exactly. So I wanted to end on this note, Deb. It says here we're supposed to persevere to the end. Because the swift and effective remedy for the wounds of anybody that fights for God's cause and places our entire trust in Him, when you least expect it, you're going to see that enemy of yours at your feet. Bam!
Absolutely.
Your enemy will be at your feet because your confidence in God. That's how we're ending it, sister girl. 2 thumbs up, people. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up. Share it if you can. Thank you so much for joining us. Deb, any last words?
Yes, good night and God bless everyone.
Yes, good night. And what do we say? What do we say? The battle's been won. And don't forget, we're here to help you win the fight and win it right. Right, kids? God bless you all. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you so much. Legend Hunter Films. Love the movie. Find Legend Hunter Films online, www.legendhunterfilms. And there are comments in the thread. Please, I will be leaving the link later. Have a good night. Don't stay up too late, kiddies. Good night.
The Real Deal TV show, copyright 2018, a Swords of St. Michael production. Any unauthorized duplication or rebroadcast or retransmission of this broadcast without the express written permission of the Swords of the Saint Network or that of Pharaoh's Deal is strictly prohibited.